The silence of the storeroom enveloped them, a stark contrast to the chaos beyond. Caden stepped closer, the distance between them narrowing. He reached for her hand, holding it firmly but tenderly. "If we're going to get through this, I need you to trust me." She opened her mouth to respond, but the sincerity in his gaze rendered her speechless. The unspoken bond between them grew palpable, a tether of shared secrets and vulnerabilities. "Always," she finally whispered, and the word hung in the air like a promise. Caden leaned closer, the tension thick, and for a moment the world beyond faded away. Their lips nearly met, the lightning illuminating the room just as thunder growled, their hearts racing against all odds. They were drawn together, waiting for the storm to pass. Scene 43, The Choice of Love. The dimly lit ballroom shimmered with ferocity, crystal chandeliers casting fleeting shadows over a sea of silk and satin. The decor, lush and opulent, felt like a cage of elegance closing in on Nova LeClaire as she stood at the edge of the dance floor. An orchestra played a soft waltz, its notes swirling like smoke, seductive yet suffocating. Above it all, the scent of rich mahogany mingled with the floral perfume of finely dressed women, creating an atmosphere thick with tension and potential. Caden Onyx approached her, his broad shoulders cutting through the throng with ease. His presence was electric, igniting a warmth in Nova that battled with her spiraling anxiety. She could see the concern etched in the lines of his face beneath the charm he wore as a mask. He stopped just short of her, the weight of the world palpable in the space between them. "Nova, we can't keep dancing around this," he said, his voice barely above the music, low and fervent. "We need to talk about your sister." Her heart sank. The moment she had dreaded was looming. "I'm not my sister, Caden," she replied, her tone a blend of defiance and uncertainty. "But I can't let her down. Not again." Caden's brow furrowed, a storm of emotions, fear, anger, and something deeper shimmering in his striking dark eyes. "You're not letting her down by choosing to live. Your life is at stake too, the syndicate." "I know," Nova interjected, a swell of frustration bubbling to the surface. "But I'm her only shield right now. If anything, if anyone happens to her, it's on me." Caden stepped closer, his expression softening, the tension weaving around them like a thick band. "And what about us? What about what you feel?" His hand reached out, brushing against her arm, sending a rush of warmth through her. "Do I mean anything to you?" The question hung heavily in the air, a delicate thread poised to fray. Nova closed her eyes for a moment, the haunting melody echoing her internal conflict. She had known nothing but shadows and secrets for too long, but with Caden, everything felt brighter. Yet, the memory of her sister's face loomed large in her mind, fraught with concern and insecurity. "Of course you mean something to me," she whispered, the vulnerability spilling forth like an unmoored boat in a storm. "It's just everything's tangled up. I can't just walk away from my sister." Just then, a shout erupted across the ballroom, fracturing their intimate cocoon. "Hey, get back here!" A man, drunk on both champagne and bravado, barreled through the crowd, waving a fist in the air as he crashed into the closest table, sending glasses clinking and pearls scattering. Chaos erupted, patrons gasping and retreating, and somewhere amidst the fervor, Caden instinctively stepped in front of Nova, shielding her from the brewing storm. His protective instinct ignited something fierce within her. "What the?" he grunted, eyes narrowing as he scanned the room, readying himself for danger. "Let's get out of here," she urged, heart racing. But Caden didn't move. Instead, his eyes locked onto hers, intense, deep, burning with an unspoken promise. "I will always choose you, Nova, but I can't fight this battle alone." His breath was warm against her skin, the world around them fading, leaving only the weight of their decisions pressing heavily on their shoulders. In that moment, she felt drawn to him, a magnetism that defied all reason. "And what if choosing me means I lose my sister?" she breathed, every word laced with desperation. "Then we'll find a way to save her," he stated firmly, determination lighting a fire in his voice. Nova's heart echoed the longing in his gaze. "Caden, I can't risk it. I can't lose you too," she admitted, her voice trembling. But before he could respond, the commotion intensified. Another crash, louder this time. People screamed, some scrambling towards the exit. The air was thick with fear and confusion. "Look, we need to go now," Caden said, gripping her arm firmly, urgency lacing his tone. As his hands clasped around her wrist, she felt the heat between them, an undeniable connection. "Please, choose this," he whispered. Nova's eyes darted around the room, her heart a battleground of emotions. She was caught between love and responsibility, each choice carving its mark on her soul. "I need time," she stammered, knowing the peril around them, yet feeling an overwhelming pull towards the man beside her. "Time isn't something we have," Caden murmured, his voice thick with urgency and something deeper, something they both sought beneath the chaos. In that fleeting moment, both their futures hung in the balance, a cauldron of love, loyalty, and looming danger swirling dangerously close to boiling over. Scene 44, confronting betrayal. The grand ballroom of the Sinclair mansion pulsed with a flow of glittering champagne flutes and whisper-soft silk skirts. The muted tones of rich mahogany and gold cast shadows, where laughter echoed against the high ceilings, concealing fragments of secrets layered like delicate frosting on a cake. Nova Leclaire stood by the tall windows, the moonlight catching in her dark hair as it cascaded over her shoulders. Her twin sister, Mayra, often joked about the astrological twins being the light and dark of a shared soul. Tonight, the atmosphere thickened, pulsating with a sharper edge of resentment. Caden Onyx entered the room with the assurance of a lion crossing its territory. His striking presence flickered a hush across the crowd, but it wasn't the same magnetic allure Nova would normally feel. Today, he looked like he bore the weight of the world, his handsome face betraying a deep frown that drew lines across his brow. He strode towards her, the crisp scent of fresh cologne wafting with each determined step. "What did you say to her?" Caden's voice was low, simmering with the intensity of a storm. "I didn't say anything," Nova exclaimed, her pulse quickening. She crossed her arms defensively, the sound of laughter behind them dawning upon the tension that lingered like smoke in the air. "You didn't have to confront Mayra in front of everyone. It wasn't fair." Caden's jaw tightened, his eyes flashing a complex storm of emotions, hurt, anger, and a hint of desperation. "Fair? You have no idea what she told me, Nova. You really think I care about fair when treachery whispers in our ears?" As the room pulsed around them, laughter from their mutual friends Brian and Asha filled the silence, romancing their way through a poppy banter few cared to listen to. Outside the laughter, Nova felt every flicker of envy deep in her stomach, swirling like dark clouds ready to engulf her. "I know Mayra is playing games, but we can't just tear apart everything, our lives, because of her whims," Nova countered, the shadows of indecision painting her features. "Games?" Caden scoffed, stepping closer, his voice a near growl. "This isn't a game. You think I don't know what she's doing? The fabric of your family is fraying, Nova. How can we move forward if she's going to create drama around us? Faking an identity is one thing, but letting her mess with our lives?" For a moment, the weight of Caden's world was evident on his shoulders, and despite the anger tingling through her body, Nova faltered, seeing a glimpse of vulnerability beneath his steely exterior. She longed to smooth out the lines of tension creasing his forehead, to remind him of the laughter they shared just days before. "She's my sister. I can't just—" Nova began, her voice softened as the room swirled around the two of them. Caden's intense gaze darkened with an inscrutable melancholy. "Have you ever thought about who you hurt?" Caden's words pierced through the low hum of the crowd, silencing the raucous dance within the ballroom. "You're risking everything by defending her. Your heart, your future, so unpredictable, so—" His voice was strained, dripping with insincerity that reached for the very heart of her. Consumed by the unease roiling inside her, Nova quickly glanced at the assembled guests, laughter mingling with overt flirtation, oblivious to the tempest that brewed between them. And then she noticed. Their pressure to shield their relationship from the public eye felt suffocating. "How am I supposed to be the one who chooses Caden?" she murmured, allowing a sudden crack in her facade, vulnerability seeping through like a fragile thread in a tapestry. "To be the best version of myself when everyone expects me to be someone else?" His expression shifted, something deeply human flickering in those stormy eyes of his. "You be who you are," he said, his voice low, a gentler touch against her heart. "But you have to choose, Nova." As he stepped closer, the world around them faded. She felt that familiar pull, a storm between them quelled by a single step, as the chaos of the gala danced beyond their bubble. She reached out, placing her trembling hand against his, feeling the heat radiating through the layers of conflict. A flicker of understanding exchanged, simmering tension momentarily dissolving in the weight of unshared secrets. "Tell me you'll never let her choose for you again," he whispered, a plea that felt like the rise of dawn over the darkness of their trouble-filled night. She held his gaze, their connection tender yet electrifying. "I promise." Outside their cocoon of conflict, the laughter erupted, the gala resumed. Yet amidst the cacophony, every choice crystallized. Their hearts drummed against the storm quicksand of deception waiting. Scene 45, Heart's Resolution. The evening sky was heavy with slate-gray clouds, dragging shadows across the landscape of the grand estate where the gala unfolded. Flickering lights illuminated the terrace, bouncing off polished crystal glasses and reflecting 1,000 different colors onto the marble floor. A biting wind swept through, rustling the leaves of the meticulously manicured hedges, whispering secrets of danger beneath the blare of laughter and music. Caden Onyx leaned against the cool stone balustrade, his breath visible in the crisp air, mingling with the tension buzzing around him. The laughter of the high society crowd echoed like a distant fever dream, igniting unease in his chest. He slipped his hands into the pockets of his tailored navy suit, feeling the weight of his resolve press against him, like the storm threatening to break above. "Do you ever feel like we're living a lie?" Nova Leclerc's voice shimmered with breathless honesty as she emerged beside him. Her dark curls cascaded over her shoulders, framing her face with an accessible beauty that drew the eyes of many but held Caden entranced. The soft glow of the chandelier's light haloed around her, contrasting with the twilight's encroaching gloom. "A lie?" He raised an eyebrow, glancing sideways, captivated by the vulnerability in her gaze. "What do you mean?" She sighed lightly, the wind catching her words. "All these masks we wear, the expectations, and the secrets." Her smile faded, replaced by a somber expression that spoke of the weight pressing on her heart. I'm not even sure who I am anymore." Raking a hand through his hair, Caden stared into the distance. "You're Nova, fiercely independent and brilliantly unique. You always have been." He hesitated, the weight of his own secret threatening to slip through his lips. "You just need to believe it. You don't have to sugarcoat it. I've been pretending to be someone else," she whispered, her voice shaking slightly. "The pressure, being a twin, trying to keep up with my sister, your connection to all this." She gestured vaguely toward the gala, where laughter mingled with the sinister undertones of deceit. Caden turned towards her, interest piqued. "My connection?" He leaned closer, keeping his voice low. "You think I'm part of her game? Not you, but—" She paused, weighing her words. "Your past, the things you've kept hidden. It's like we're all navigating this shadowy maze of secrets." He caught her gaze, the intensity between them palpable, so thick he could almost taste it. "Nova, I need to be honest." Before he could finish, the lights flickered, a shiver running through the crowd, and the music fell to an abrupt halt. Murmurs of confusion rippled through the guests. Caden felt his heartbeat quicken, instincts kicking in. "I don't want to lose this," Nova blurted out suddenly, her eyes flashing with urgency. "Whatever this is between us, then we won't." Caden stepped closer, closing the distance, urgency swirling around them as shadows loomed and a chill drifted from that inexplicable darkness. "But we need to face whatever is coming together. You and I, side by side." A shattering crash from within the hall sent guests diving for cover. Caden instinctively reached for Nova, pulling her slightly behind him, his protective instincts ignited. "Stay close. Wait." Nova grasped his wrist, urgency radiating from her. "I can't hide anymore, Caden. Not from you, from anyone. I don't want to be part of a deception." The rawness her confession hung heavily in the air, stunning him into silence. Caden looked deep into her determined eyes, searching for any flicker of doubt. Instead, he found only resolve. "I've kept my past a secret to protect you, to protect the child." Her breath hitched, but she held his gaze, steeling herself, then holding nothing back. A low rumble in the distance seemed to intensify their moment, echoing the storm gathering above. Caden stepped even closer, intertwining their fingers, his heart throbbing in his chest. "I promise, Nova, no more secrets." They stood on the precipice of something perilous, intertwined by their flaws and misgivings, but resolute not to falter. With a breath, they embraced the uncertainty of their future, as the winds whispered around them, carrying the echoes of both their fears and hopes. Together, Caden murmured, squeezing her hand, we face it together. Scene 46. Threads of Redemption. The sunlight streamed through the tall windows of the grand ballroom, dappling the polished wooden floor in pools of warmth that contrasted sharply with the chill creeping into Nova's heart. She stood on tiptoes, glancing through the crowd gathered for the gala, her fingers absent-mindedly tracing a delicate lace pattern on the floor-length gown she had borrowed from her sister. The bustle of laughter and clinking glasses filled the air, yet Nova felt isolated, her pulse racing, driven by an urgency she hardly understood. This was her chance. As she caught sight of Caden Onyx across the room, a figure who commanded presence with the ease of well-practiced grace, her resolve hardened. Today was not just about masquerading. It was about facing the shadows left in the wake of her sister's choices and claiming her newfound identity. The veins of uncertainty nestled deep within her, throbbed with every step she took, bringing her closer to him. Caden, she called out, her voice cutting through the cheerful hum like a knife. He turned, his gaze penetrating, eyes a storm of emotions. A half smile graced his lips, but something flickered in his expression, a moment of hesitation that spoke louder than words. Nova, he replied, allowing her to approach him with an almost predatory awareness, unfurling like a cat preparing to pounce. Can we talk? She asked, the weight of each word settling heavily between them. Caden studied her, his brow creasing. An abyss of worry flickered through the depths of his gaze before he nodded. Sure. Over there? He gestured towards a quieter corner, away from curious ears and wandering eyes. As they maneuvered through the swaths of well-dressed guests, the scent of rich orchids mingled with the spiced waft of cinnamon pastries hanging in the air. Nova's senses sharpened, each detail heightening the emotional struggle ahead. They stepped into the alcove, where the aromas faded and silence enveloped them like a tangible cloak. What's going on? Caden asked, though the seriousness of his tone suggested he already anticipated the chaos about to unfurl. There's something I need to tell you. Nova's voice trembled slightly, but she steadied herself, feeding off his intensity. I've been living this lie. My sister, she tangled herself in a world of shadows, he finished for her, his voice low. The concern for her sister was evident despite the sternness in his demeanor. Nova bit her lip. It's not just about her, it's about me too. I've been avoiding my own truth, living in her shadow while you're standing here. Nova, it's more complex than that, Caden interjected, stepping closer, his gaze steady yet gentle. You're not just a replica of her. You've got your own path and dreams, which I admire deeply. Do you? Or is that just a way to shield me from the mess we're both in? Nova's candidness resonated in the space between them, filling the air with an electricity that made it hard to breathe. But then he moved closer, closing the distance more than just physically. What mess are we in? I've got my own demons, just like you. His voice was laced with a vulnerability she hadn't expected, one that beckoned her to reach beyond the fear of unearthing secrets. What demons? She whispered, leaning in, the tension between them now fraying the edges of her composure. He hesitated, eyes narrowing. Let's just say I have a past that could unravel everything you are trying to protect. Then let's unravel it together, Nova urged, breath hitching. We can't pretend anymore, Caden. We can't keep guarding our hearts when there's this. She gestured between them, a physical embodiment of the unspoken connection. Hold on, he said, stepping back, confusion clouding his features. You can't just leap into the deep end without knowing what lives beneath the surface. And what lives beneath yours, she countered, her heart hammering in sync with her rising passion. Their eyes locked, shared pain shifting to a flicker of longing. Suddenly a glass shattered nearby, followed by the raucous laughter of a nearby group, pulling them back from the brink of vulnerability. Caden's expression shifted, a mix of protective and playful. Shall we join the chaos? Or do you want to dive deeper right now? The spark in her chest flared at the challenge woven in his tone. No one is diving anywhere until we face the truth, Caden. Let's not get lost in the distractions. Caden inhaled deeply, his shoulders rising and falling with the weight of unvoiced fears. The tension crackled like electricity, an unbroken thread knitting the fabric of their connection. "You're right," he murmured, his voice husky. "But when we do, it'll change everything." "Then let's change everything together," she urged, stepping forward as the ballroom buzzed with life, ready to burst their bubble at any moment. The world around them dwindled, and all that remained was a thread of shared desire and the promise of redemption. Scene 47. Stormy Revelations. The patter of rain against the tall windows harmonized with the crackle of energy that surged between Caden and Nova. The world outside was a tempest, a ferocious storm that left branches thrashing, water sluicing down the cobblestones like spilled ink. In the grand drawing room of the Montefiore estate, shadows flickered from the fire, creating dances of light that illuminated Caden's brooding expression. "Why did you never tell me?" Nova's voice cut through the weighty silence, trembling with both fear and urgency. She stood across from him, her auburn curls framing her face, contrasting with the warm mahogany of the room. Caden clenched his jaw, a riptide of emotions swirling behind his calm facade. "Because it was never the right time," he replied, his deep voice contrasting with the rain's constancy. "I thought I could handle it alone." "Handle what? Keeping a part of yourself hidden?" Nova took a step closer, her heart racing as the air thickened with unsaid words. "A child is not just a secret you tuck away in a drawer." Lightning rent the sky, illuminating Caden's expression, revealing a flicker of guilt woven into his features. "You don't understand. This isn't just about me. There are implications, connections that run deeper than either of us ever anticipated." He glanced away, the flickering firelight casting dark shadows across his face. The storm raged outside, mirroring the turbulent emotions within. Nova swallowed hard, feeling the gravity of his admission. "Then let me in, Caden. I won't turn my back on you, no matter how tangled this gets." Her voice cracked, a vulnerability peeking through the strength she'd built up. Caden's gaze softened momentarily before hardening again. "No, I can't stand the thought of you getting dragged into this mess." He stepped back, the distance feeling insurmountable. The rain struck harder, as if the heavens themselves pressed down in anguish. "Dragged into what? Your life is full of secrets, just like mine. I've run from the shadow of my sister long enough, and now I'm here, standing in front of you." Nova's intensity reflected in her deep-set eyes, a storm of passion and insistence. "We can face this together. I can help." She could feel the shift in energy, but Caden seemed like the storm outside, unpredictable and ferocious. "You think you know what danger looks like? You're mistaken. This isn't a romance story with happy endings. It's not that simple," he intoned, each word delivered with meticulous care, weighed down by the truths he had yet to reveal. "Every secret gets complicated, Caden. Mine is tied to an identity I've struggled to escape. Yours is about a child you can't acknowledge. We're bound by our pasts," Nova insisted, her voice rising, spurred on by the depth of her emotions. "But we also have this moment right now." Thunder growled ominously, a growing dissonance. Without thinking, Nova reached for him, her fingers grazing his forearm, a brief connection that sent a surge of warmth through both of them. "You can trust me," she breathed, her eyes wide and earnest, searching for something more in his storm-ridden depths. Caden hesitated, the flickering air surrounding them pulsing with palpable tension. The weight of his dark secrets bore down upon him, threatening to consume what little openness he had managed to share. "There will be repercussions if I let you in," he murmured, the weight of his words pressed against her like the heavy rain lashing against the window panes. "Repercussions? Or just truth?" Nova challenged, her heart racing against the sudden vulnerability echoing between them. "You can lay bare your darkness with me. I promise I won't shy away." Caden's resolve faltered momentarily as he regarded her. Her fierce spirit mirrored his own, and the connection between them felt like a lifeline amidst the chaos. "But what if your truth darkens my world even further?" he countered, the storm punctuating his hesitation. "Maybe we're both carrying the weight of our fears, Caden," she replied, her voice softening. "Maybe we're stronger together than we are apart." The fierce lightning provided one final jolt of clarity, the storm outside as relentless as the emotions brewing within. "Together, then," Caden finally said, the admission heavy on his tongue. Let this storm bring the truth into the light. Scene 48, a race against time. The sun hovered low in the sky, casting a slice of cerulean light across the marble terrace of the estate, illuminating the intricate patterns of the garden below. Caden Onyx leaned against the hand-stitched railing, feeling an odd blend of anxiety and adrenaline thrumming through his veins. He stole a glance at Nova Leclaire, her silhouette etched against the vibrant backdrop of roses, her presence both a balm and a torment. Time was slipping through their fingers, yet here they were, an innocent in the swirling storm of intrigue. As the wind rustled through the leaves, a flicker of uncertainty danced in Caden's mind. Tonight was the night they would expose the syndicate simmering beneath the gala's surface. His heart pounded a steady rhythm, each beat a reminder of the child he had kept hidden, a secret that could unearth the very foundation of his life. "You ready?" Caden finally asked, breaking the silence that felt so heavy with unspoken words. Nova turned, her expressive eyes reflecting the chaos of her thoughts. "We don't have the luxury of time, Caden. We need to act before someone discovers our plan." The nerve in his jaw tightened as he pushed off the railing, his instincts sharpening. "Then let's do it. We'll outsmart them, together." Her gaze held his, a spark igniting in that fleeting moment. But before either could fully embrace the connection, a sharp clattering echoed from the mansion's interior, pulling them back into grim reality. They had to move fast. "Come on," Nova said, her voice urgent yet tinged with electric possibility. With a swift motion, she took his hand, her fingers wrapping around his, igniting a heat that spread up his arm. He allowed her to pull him through the opulent halls. Their footsteps echoed softly against polished wood, but within that silence, a cacophony of emotions raged: fear, longing, the pulse of something unconfessed. As they rounded a corner, they stumbled upon a group of guests, all raucous laughter and flowy gowns, entirely unsuspecting of the tempest brewing beneath the surface. Nova stepped closer, her fragrance, a comforting blend of jasmine and something spicy, enveloping him. It distracted him from the masked danger lurking just beyond their shared moment. "What if they realize I'm not?" Nova whispered, trailing off. "Your sister, they won't notice a thing," Caden assured her, though his heart twisted at the deception she was playing. A drift of guilt softened the edges of his resolve as he imagined her sphinx-like conundrum identity wrapped in identity, truth hidden under layers of charm. Suddenly, a distant sound pierced their bubble, the unmistakable wail of sirens rising ominously. Caden clenched Nova's fingers tighter. "We have to go now." They darted toward the back of the mansion, where shadows loomed like dark reminders of their trespass, but their pace slowed at the threshold of the patio. With panicked urgency, Nova turned to him, their breaths mingling. "If we're doing this, I need to know we're in it together. No more secrets, Caden." His heart thundered as he sought her gaze. This was the moment of reckoning. "I'll tell you everything, but first." Before he could finish his thought, she stepped forward, reducing the space between them to mere inches, bold and fierce. "Kiss me, Caden." He hesitated as different roads of possibility stretched out before them, painful revelations, secrets unburdened. But theirs was a world steeped in danger, electric, with unrelenting tension. And in this moment, a kiss was worth the risk. With a breathless cadence, he closed the distance, capturing her lips with a fervor that quenched an unspoken thirst. Her warmth enveloped him, drowning out the chaos, the urgency, the blurred lines between right and wrong. The kiss was soft, a fleeting echo of tenderness that quickly morphed into something far deeper, more consuming. He tasted her resolve, the sweetness of life mingled with the salt of impending loss. As their bodies entwined, he felt the pulse of her heartbeat against his chest, forming a silent pact amidst the storm. Then, like a whisper caught in the wind, the moment faded away, leaving behind a promise lingering on their lips. Caden pulled back, breathless, their foreheads touching, the urgency of their mission rekindled by the shared pulse of their hearts. "We need to go," Caden murmured, his voice hoarse yet resolute. "Right. Let's dismantle this nightmare," Nova replied, her eyes bright with determination, each word laced with the thrill of impending action as they resumed their race against time, hand in hand once more, ready to confront whatever lay ahead. Scene 49. Broken chains. As droplets of rain pelted the cobblestone street, A visceral tension hung in the air, thick and electric. Caden Onyx stood at the window of his dimly lit apartment, the sound of the storm outside mirroring the storm brewing within him. He gazed at the shackled city outside, where secrets whispered in the shadows, and he felt as if he were drowning in the very chains he'd forged. The dark history he buried deep within his heart clawed at him, demanding to be addressed. "Tonight's the night, Caden," he muttered to himself, fists tightening at his sides, the strain of his dual life clearer than the rain-soaked glass before him. The gala was tonight. The gala that would either shatter their lives completely or sever the grip of the syndicate, threatening to destroy them all. With resolve hardening in his chest, Caden stepped away from the window, his mind flickering to Nova. Her laughter felt like a salve on his troubled heart, and yet he knew she would be at the gala, hidden behind her sister's identity, playing a role in a dangerous game neither of them fully understood. The stakes were high, too high. Caden pulled open the door and dashed into the tumultuous night, the rain drenching him instantly. The coldness bit at his skin, invigorating him, awakening old instincts. He reached his car, but instead of stepping inside, he shielded his eyes against the rain and scanned the street. Each corner was a potential ambush, every shadow a lurking adversary. "Who are you running from?" a familiar voice called out, rough with curiosity. Turning, Caden's gaze met Jack's, his longtime friend and ally, who leaned against a lamppost, his own coat soaked. "No time for side plots, Jax. We're moving into tonight with a plan." Jax straightened, curiosity melting into seriousness. "Are we finally going in a different direction? No more hiding?" It was a question that hung in the air like the storm's thunder. Caden nodded, finally acknowledging the truth. "I'm done protecting my past. It's time they know the truth." Salted winds blew fiercely as they set off down the street, their footsteps echoing a beat of determination. Caden felt the confidence rise within him, buoyed by the thoughts of Nova and what they might yet salvage from the wreckage around them. "Hey, do you think Nova's ready for this? Playing a double agent?" Jax asked as they approached the venue, its grand facade dominated by flickering candlelight and chattering society figures. "She's more than capable, but she's entangled in this more than I am," Caden replied, pausing for a heartbeat. The tumult in his gut flared. The idea of her unknown dangers stirred a surge of protectiveness, igniting a fire he could no longer cling to in silence. As they entered the gala, opulence surrounded them, swirling around like the intoxicating strains of the orchestra. Caden spotted familiar faces engrossed in their veils of charm and deceit, laughter echoing over clinking glasses. Everything was surface level. The deception ran deeper than he ever imagined in this labyrinth of pretense. "Quick!" Jax gestured toward the bar, his tone suddenly urgent. "You need to make a move. We're running out of time." Caden spared a glance at the crowd, then caught sight of Nova, resplendent in her elegant gown, her eyes dancing with that same spirited enthusiasm he cherished. She was captivating, beautifully naive in her innocence, yet encased in destiny's web. But while the tempest inside him roared, her smile remained disarming. He marched toward her, the air crackling with unsaid words. Just as he reached her, an unexpected crash resonated from the back of the room, and chaos erupted. Glass shattered, and screams filled the air as several masked figures barreled into the gala, guns glinting in the fluorescent glow. Caden's heart raced, his instincts taking over. Nova was in the thick of it, her carefree laughter fading into horror. "Get down!" he bellowed, instinctively pulling Nova close, their bodies colliding in a protective embrace. "We have to move. Now." In that fleeting moment, with the chaos surrounding them, a profound connection surged between them. Fear, adrenaline, and an unspoken promise of protection. He could feel her heartbeat against him, frantic yet fierce, breathing life into their fraught circumstances. "Stay close, Nova," Caden shouted, staring into her wide, determined eyes. "I won't let anything happen to you." Her breath hitched. "Then we fight, together." They forged through the crowd, hearts pounding like war drums, ready to confront their demons together. At that moment, the chains of their past began to splinter, revealing the path to liberation ahead. In a world drenched in deception, they chose to cascade into the fire of truth. Scene 50, building trust. The air crackled with tension, and the chaos of the gala surged just beyond the heavy velvet drapes. Caden Onyx stood, his lean silhouette cast in the filtered light, tension coiled within him like a spring. They had narrowly escaped the latest blow from the syndicate, but the dangerous rhythm of their heartbeats reminded him of the stakes at play. His mind raced, thoughts brimming with unspooled confidences he felt should remain cloaked in shadows. Yet, as he traced his fingers along the polished edge of a nearby table, he was struck by the sudden gravity of Nova Leclerc's presence, not just as a force in his life, but as the woman standing in front of him, resilient yet fragile. Her deep brown eyes searched his with a kind of intensity that made him want to reveal everything, the child he had hidden, the guilt that twisted inside him with every breath. "Are you okay?" she asked, her voice a smooth contrast to the tumult of the world outside. He chuckled softly, tension easing a fraction. "I'm pretty sure I just dodged a bullet, quite literally." The corner of his mouth lifted in a half smile, but the weight of unspoken truth lingered like a fog. He stepped closer. "You know it's more than that," Nova insisted, brushing her fingers lightly against his forearm, sending an electric thrill through him. The touch grounded him, drawing his focus back to her. "Sometimes," he said, searching for the right words, "I feel like an imposter in my own life." Her brow furrowed, genuine concern surfacing. "You're not an imposter, Caden. You're strong. You've defended your life and your secrets fiercely, but we're getting caught up in this together now." Their eyes locked, and for a fleeting moment, the outside world melted away, a cocoon of vulnerability enveloping them. Caden felt the weight of his dark secrets whispering at the edges of his mind, the fear of his past suffocating him. "I haven't been honest with you, Nova," he said at last, his voice low and edged with heartfelt urgency. "I know," she replied with an unexpected softness, her grip on his arm tightening. "And that's okay. We're both in this together. We can build trust." Her words rolled over him like a soothing balm, yet he knew the truth could shatter their uneasy alliance. Then came the flicker of movement from behind the curtain. Caden instinctively turned, muscles taut as a trap, his body ready for the fight that had been hovering like a specter between them. But when he looked back, he found Nova leaning toward him, both hesitant and longing at once. Her breath danced between them, an invitation layered with urgency. "Trust requires vulnerability," she whispered, her face mere inches from his. Caden's heart stuttered, the warmth radiating from their proximity igniting a thunderstorm within him. "And what if I let you down?" he asked, vulnerability cracking his usually impenetrable facade. "I won't let you fall," Nova assured him, her forehead brushing against his, each word a tether anchoring him to her. "We're in this together, remember?" As if compelled by an unseen force, Caden leaned closer, his lips grazing hers in a soft yet insistent caress. The world faded, their surroundings dissolving into a blur of sound and light. Her warmth melted the walls he had built, each heartbeat echoing louder than gunfire. He deepened the kiss, testing the waters of their connection, feeling her respond in kind, gentle yet hungry, a fire catching light. The taste of trust and fear mingled with the sweetness of their desire, overwhelming yet beautifully poignant. As the moment intensified, he pushed away the thoughts of their past, their secrets, and the impending danger just beyond the curtain. What emerged was something pure, a visceral promise of protection and devotion buried amid chaos. Just as he was about to lose himself completely, Caden pulled back, breathless. "No matter what happens, know this. I will protect you with every fiber of my being." Nova nodded, understanding threading through her gaze. "And I'll stand by you, Caden. We'll weather this storm together." With a sense of renewed resolve, they faced the chaos beyond the drapes, ready to navigate through their lives and the shadows of deceit that clung to them. Together, they took one bold step forward into the fray. Scene 51, The Hidden Child. The courtyard was a sanctuary, even in amid the chaos of the gala. Clusters of jasmine filled the air with a heady sweetness that clung to the skin, while lanterns flickered like timid stars against the velvety night. Nova took a deep breath, the scent perfumed with whispers of secrets, her heart racing as she stood beside Caden. They had skirted the edges of intimacy long enough. "Are you sure about this?" Caden's voice was low, the weight of unspoken fears manifesting in the way he shifted from foot to foot, his gaze locked onto the rear of the garden. "What else can we do?" Nova countered, feelings of doubt and excitement intertwining like the ivy creeping up the stone walls. Your son deserves to know his father. The affirmation stirred something tempestuous within her, battling her own vulnerability with a surge of determination. I haven't known how to face him, Caden admitted, his voice gravelly, as pain seeped through the cracks of his bravado. What if he doesn't want to know me? Her heart ached at the turmoil shaping his features. He was a man forged from strength and shadows, but in this moment he was frayed. Before she could respond, a small figure darted into the courtyard. A boy, perhaps 5 or 6, with wild curls and curious eyes. Caden's eyes widened, his facade nearly cracking under the weight of the moment. "Dad!" the boy called, his voice exuberant, chasing the sound of laughter echoing from the gala across the garden. "Deshaun," Caden whispered, a note of disbelief wrapping around the name. It was as if he had been summoned from a dream he scarcely dared to envision. Before Caden could move, Nova stepped forward and knelt down, her heart swelling at the pure joy emanating from the child. "Hello there. I'm Nova," she said with a bright smile, holding out her hand. Deshaun planted his hands defiantly on his hips. "You're not my dad's girlfriend." His directness brought a laugh bubbling from Nova's chest, breaking the ice. Caden laughed too, a sound like sunlight that broke through his apprehension. "Technically true, buddy," he responded, the softness in his tone urging Nova to take a step back. "Does that mean you're not going to steal him from me?" Deshaun pouted, his sincerity causing a rush of affection from Nova. "Not at all," she replied, her voice warm like fresh honey. "I just want to see your awesome superhero moves." Encouraged, Deshaun launched into an exaggerated pose, eyes wide, arms spreading out as he pretended to fly. Caden's tense shoulders relaxed as he watched, and Nova felt the corners of her mouth pull upward against her will. As they played, the reality that Deshaun was a part of Caden's world settled over them, weaving a fragile bond of trust in the air. The laughter that had hung in the shadows felt like it was finally breaking through. Caden crouched down beside his son, the boy now measuring the 2 women in his father's life. "Deshaun, this is Nova," he said, the name almost reverent. "She's really special." At that moment, the weight of Caden's observation settled over Nova, simmering beneath the surface. A blush crept into her cheeks, and they exchanged a glance that ignited something deeper within. "What's special about her, Dad?" questioned Deshaun, innocent yet astute, turning the moment sacred as all eyes fell upon Nova. "She makes me feel alive," Caden murmured, vulnerability breaking through his layers, but it was the flicker in his eyes that drew Nova closer. The facade was gone, leaving behind raw honesty, wrapped in the shadows of the night. Before she could respond, Caden drew nearer, and a weight hung between them, palpable and electric. Nova's breath hitched as Caden leaned down, the world around them blurring into insignificance. They were an island amid the crashing tide of life. It wasn't just the child or the night, it was the understanding that lay bare before them, an invitation wrapped in longing and uncertainty. Nova couldn't hold back. She closed the space between them, their lips brushing softly, initially hesitant, then fervent, unfurling with unmasked emotion. They lost themselves in that moment, lips dancing in harmony, the kiss filled with promises of healing and understanding. The world surged on, but it felt like eternity lingered between them, fading into the night like stolen breaths. "Can you teach me to fly too, Nova?" Deshaun broke the spell, his innocent query filling the air with lightness again. Giggling, Nova pulled back, her heart still racing. "Of course, but you'll have to promise to help me learn your superhero moves, okay?" A chorus of whimsical laughter echoed through the courtyard, but in that moment, as Caden's hand lingered on her waist, they both knew that the journey ahead would be just as complicated as the shadows they left behind. Scene 52, Dancing with Danger. The grand ballroom glimmered with candlelight, whispering echoes of laughter and clinking glasses filling the air. Nova stood at the edge, her heart racing as she watched elegantly clad couples swirl across the polished marble floor. She felt the heat of the chaos and intrigue around her, yet the weight of her own decision lingered in the air like a heavy perfume. Caden Onyx, a figure of confidence, made his way toward her, captivating as ever in his tailored suit. A sense of vulnerability flickered through her. How could something as simple as this moment feel so laden with consequences? The gala was a farce, a cover for something darker. Yet here they were, lost in a world of sparkle where danger lurked only an arm's length away. Caden, she said, trying to summon the lightness of this gathering, what do you think is inside those chocolate-covered strawberries? Ransom money, he replied with a sardonic grin, a glint of mischief in his deep-set eyes. Or could it be poisoned? She feigned a gasp, holding her chest dramatically. Then it's only fair you take the first bite. Caden laughed, the sound rich and warm. I'll be waiting for the report on your flavor experience. She smiled, heart throbbing not just from his charm, but from the shared energy that sparked between them. Before she could hesitate, Nova grabbed his hand, leading him toward the dance floor. The music swelled, lightening the tension that coiled within her. I didn't know you could dance so well, she teased, swaying slightly as he drew her closer to him. I have my secrets, Caden whispered, and for a fleeting moment she caught a glimpse of something deeper in his eyes. His hand settled low on her back, guiding her through the rhythm while his other hand clasped hers. With every turn, their bodies brushed against one another, amplifying the chemistry, a quiet storm brewing in the air. She could smell his cologne, a mix of cedarwood and something unmistakably him, grounding her amid swirling uncertainty. The world around them began to dim, the cacophony of life fading as they lost themselves in each other. Do you ever think about the life we could have outside of this? She asked, surprising herself with her boldness. Nova had never been this candid. Caden's expression shifted, his brow furrowing slightly. You mean a life without secrets? More like a life where we can be ourselves, free to love openly and without fear. Nova felt exposed as she spoke, revealing more than she intended. The flicker of vulnerability in his gaze echoed her own insecurities. I've always wanted that, but life has a way of complicating things, he said, his voice low. For a moment she thought they might talk further, but the sardonic lift of his lips jarred the atmosphere. Speaking of secrets, do you know if they serve crumpets here? She couldn't help but laugh, the tension breaking like a fragile bubble. You're impossible, unapologetically so. He twirled her, and she was lifted slightly, the world flashing around them. With his hands firm around her waist, Caden pulled her back to him, their breathing synchronizing. Do you really think it's possible? She asked softly, fingers brushing against his cheek. The silence enveloped them, heavy with possibilities. What's impossible? He searched her gaze, the warmth of his presence igniting a fire in her chest. Being together, without the weight of everything crashing down, she breathed, her heart thumping in her ears. The moment was electric, ephemeral, yet anchored in profound truth. I don't know, Nova. Caden's voice softened, shifting the moment into something more intimate, more urgent. But I'm willing to find out. Just know there are things about me, things I've kept hidden. I can handle it, Caden. Whatever it is, I promise. Their eyes locked, the promise hanging between them like an invitation to leap into the unknown together. As the final note echoed through the ballroom, Caden's expression transformed. The moment was fragile, both exhilarating and precarious. So what do you say we make this a night to remember? He murmured, the hint of a challenge igniting in his words. Nova smiled, exhilarated by the tension, the thrill of the moment heavy in the air. Let's do this. And as they stepped back into the vibrant chaos, their chemistry pulsed with the promise of adventure and the weight of unspoken truths, a dance with danger beckoning them further into the night. Scene 53. In the gears of fate. The grand ballroom of the West Haven estate shimmered with muted opulence. Crystal chandeliers reflected flickers of candlelight over silk draperies, casting playful shadows that seemed to dance along with the elegantly adorned guests. The scent of fresh roses intertwined with the crisp notes of fine champagne, creating an intoxicating atmosphere that enveloped everyone in its embrace, yet the air felt dense with secrets. Standing near a gilded pillar, Caden Onyx leaned slightly, his broad shoulders taut with unspoken tension, his jaw clenched as if battling with an unseen foe. Across the room, Nova LeClaire flitted like a firefly amid the warm glow of laughter and chatter, her emerald gown cascading down in shimmering waves. But there was an unmistakable weight in her gaze, a flicker of vulnerability masked beneath her radiant smile. As she caught Caden's eye, A spark ignited between them. Their connection was palpable and charged with the unspoken words of their tangled destinies. "Are you sure we should be here?" Nova whispered, her voice barely rising above the symphony of clinking glasses and animated conversation. She stepped closer, her perfume, a delicate blend of jasmine and sandalwood, ingraining itself in Caden's consciousness, momentarily distracting him from the threats beyond these walls. Caden shifted, his blue eyes darkening with concern. "We need to understand what we're up against. The syndicate's reach extends further than we imagined." He let his gaze wander over the guests, noting the exaggerated laughter of the elite, each chuckle a potential cover for deceit. Nova nodded, attempting to steady herself against the tide of anxiety surging in her chest. "And what about us?" she asked, her voice dropping to an urgent whisper. "Do you think this is the right place to explore, whatever this is?" Her question hung between them like a fragile glass ornament, threatening to shatter. Caden's heartbeat quickened at the implication. Weeks of clandestine glances and shared moments stitched together their lives, creating a fabric ripe with unacknowledged desire. But Caden couldn't ignore the turmoil that loomed beneath his stoic exterior, a child he had fathered in secret, a woman intertwined in his past, and a future cloaked in uncertainty. With a controlled breath, he leaned in, his warmth radiating as he lowered his voice. "Every choice we make tonight could change everything, Nova. We must focus. But what if the biggest choice is right in front of us?" She shot back, her emerald gaze shimmering with defiance.